Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome back to my reading journey. Hope you're all doing great, and today we continue with the third part of Law and Order. Order, sorry. So let's do this. But when we hit the ranch, we find our decree of court obviated, nully processed, and remanded for trial. Mrs. Summers and the kid was gone. They tell us that an hour after me and Luke had started for San Antonio, she had a team hitched and lit out for the nearest station with her trunks and the youngster. Trunks. Trunks. Luke takes out his decree once more and reads of its emoluments. Emoluments. It ain't possible, Bud, says he, for this to be. It's contrary to law and order. It's road as plain as they hear custody of the child. There is what you might call a human leaning, says I, towards smashing them both. Not to mention the child. George Simmons goes on Luke, is an incorporated officer of the law. She can't take the boy away. He belongs to me by status passed and approved by the state of Texas, and he's removed from the justification of mundane just jurisdiction of mundane mandamases, says I, by the unhealthy, unearthly status of female partiality. Let us praise the Lord and be thankful for whatever small mercies I begins. But I say, Luke, don't listen to me. Tried as he was, he calls for a fresh horse and starts back again for the station. He comes back 2 weeks afterward, not saying much. We can't get the trial, says he, but we've done all the telegraphing that the viral where's will stand, and we've got these city rangers, they call detectives, on the lookout. In the meantime, Bud says he, we'll round up them cows on Brush Creek and wait for the law to take its course. And after that, we never alluded to illusions, as you might say, skipping over much what happened in the next 12 years. Luke was made sheriff of Mojada County. He made me his office deputy. Now, don't get in your mind no wrong apparitions. Often press and press. Variations of and press. Of an office. Now, don't get in your mind no wrong apparitions of an office deputy doing sums in a book of mention letters in a cedar press. In them days, his job was to watch the back window so nobody didn't plug the sheriff in the rear while he was adding up mileage at his desk in front. And in them days, I had qualifications for the job, and there was law and order in Majada County, and school books, and all the whiskey you wanted. And the government built its own battleships instead of collecting nickels from the school children to do it with. And then, as I say, there was law and order instead of enan- enactments, enactments, and restrictions, such as this figure, our this figure, our umpire state today. We had our office at Bildad, the county seat, from which we emerge forth on necessary occasions to soothe, whatever fracasses, and unrest that might occur in our jurisdiction. Skipping over much what happened while me and Luke was sheriff, I want to give you an idea of how the law was respected in them days. Luke was what you would call one of the most conscious men in the world. He never knew much book law, but he had the inner emoluments of justice and mercy inculcated into his system. If a respectable citizen shot a Mexican or held up a train and cleaned out the safe in the express car and Luke ever got hold of him, he'd give the guilty party such as reprimand, and the cousins out that he'd probably never do it again. But once let somebody steal a horse, unless it was a Spanish pony, or cut a wire fence, or otherwise impair the peace of indignity of Majada County, Luke and me would be on them with habis, corpuses, and smokeless powder, and all the modern inventions of equity and etiquette. We certainly had our country on a basis of lawfulness. I've known persons of Eastern classification with little spotted caps and button-up shoes to get off the train and Bildad and eat sandwiches at the railroad station without being shot at or even robbed and dragged about by citizens of the town. Luke had his own ideas of legality and justice. He was kind of training me to succeed him when he went out of office. He was always looking ahead to the time when he'd quit sheriffing. What he wanted to do was to build a yellow house with lattice work under the porch and have hands scratching in the yard. The one main thing in his mind seemed to be the yard. But, he says to me, By instinct and sentiment, I'm a contractor. I want to be a contractor. That's what I'll be when I get out of office. What kind of a contractor? Says I. It sounds like a kind of a business to me. You ain't going to haul cement or establish branches or work on a railroad, are you? You don't understand, says Luke. I'm tired of space and horizons and territory and distances and things like that. What I want is reasonable contraction. I want a yard with a fence around it that you can go out and sit on after supper and listen to whippoorwills, says Luke. That's the kind of a man he was. He was homelike, although he he he'd had bad luck in such investments. But he never talked about them times on the ranch. It seemed like he'd forgotten about it. I wondered how, with his ideas of yards and chickens and notions of lattice work, he'd seemed to have got out of his mind that kid of his head that he that kid of his that had been taken away from him unlawful in spite of his decree of court. But he wasn't a man you could ask about such things as he didn't refer to in his own conversation. Right, guys, little bit tough today, but anyway. See you tomorrow on the next part. Thank you for joining. Bye.